get as tough of problems as we even got like in algebra with proportions. So I thought we could talk about these, and like I said, we kind of pick and choose. We probably won't do all of them again because I'm trying to be tight on, like get out of here on time for, you can hear the pep rally.
Yeah. Saying a lot back to me.
Okay. No, you're good. Thank you. Okay, so let's actually skip the warm-up for today. If you did it already, great. Good job. Pat him back. Okay, so we're going to talk about a ratio and then we'll talk about proportions. And like I said, this is something you guys have seen in algebra. If you've taken algebra 2, you saw it there. You saw it a bunch in geometry as well. And so we are going to talk about those a little bit more today because proportions are actually something that show up quite a bit in different areas of your life, in different employment opportunities, so proportions are definitely important. So ratio is a comparison of two values. And usually we compare the ratios using like a fraction. So like A over B, or we can say A to B, A out of B, and you can use a little colon. Now what a proportion is basically two equal ratios. And you guys, we've already actually used proportions, we used them with the is over of. So that's why this is kind of just a lesson that I thought was a good Friday of homecoming week lesson, because we probably are pretty confident with this. Yeah. Right. So again, we have done this already, that we cross multiply these. And that should equal the other one multiplied. And like I said, you guys were pretty solid on proportions, I think, based off of what I saw just quickly. So we'll talk about whether or not something is equivalent ratios, and then also how to solve proportions. Like I said, we'll kind of just pick and choose a few here and then set up a few word problems with that. So like I said, I'm not going to take very long with notes. I'm going to give you guys time to work on homework. We probably have too much time, but I know you'll behave because you're good. Yeah.
It'll be good.
Has everyone got that? Sorry. Everyone got it? We're good? Okay. All right. So are the ratios equivalent? So there's a couple of different ways you can check this. What'd you guys do? I see some of you guys writing yes and no. How do you know? Yeah, what did you do?
Was the first one. I found out that 4 times 1.5 would be 6, and 6 times 1.5 would be 9.
Okay. So
It's
that's,
a guess.
yeah, that works.
Because I have 4 of those.
All right. Anybody else have a way? That's correct. But
Simplify them into their most basic forms.
So he's saying 4 over 6, you can simplify that to be 2/3. 6 over 9 can also simplify to be 2/3 if you simplify those fractions. So you divided this one by 2, this one by 2, this one by 3. So that works. That looks like a
Also,
plus sign.
does that have to be the same on both, like top and bottom?
Top and bottom, whatever you do.
Okay.
Sorry, that's supposed to be divide by 9 plus. It keeps being bad for me. Anyone have another way? Cross multiply. You can check the cross products. So multiply here and here. So 4 times 9 does,
Does the board need a break?
it's not getting a break today.
I think it's gonna need a break.
So 4 times 9 should equal 6 times 6. And that's true, 36 equals 36. All these ways are valid, so even though Clayton's way is not the way that I would particularly go with it, it works. So it's just making sure that we understand that. How about the next one? Yes or no? No, that one's a no. Again, I like the cross product way. If I check this, 5 times 4 does not equal 2 times 25. So this one's a no, because 20 does not equal 50. Most 50-year-old people probably do pick being 20, but yeah. Does not work that way.
Depends on which 50-year-old.
Right, that's true. Or which 20-year-old person you have to become. I don't know if I really, I don't think I was my best version myself at 20. So,
I was not.
all right. So to solve these proportions, the proportions you guys see here are similar to what we'll be doing. Like I said, we don't need to do all 4 of these. I just wanted to show you guys a few of them. In order to solve this, we use the cross products. So we're going to set these up just like we did in is over of equals a percent over 100. So I'm going to cross multiply, so I get 8n equals 12 times 3, which is 36. Now it's okay to get decimals for these, or fractions. Either one is fine, because there's no number that multiplies by 8 to give us 36. So we're going to divide by 8. And we are going to get 4.4 or 4.5. Is that right? And like I said, we use these when we're doing our percent of a number, so I'm hoping this isn't like I'm running through it quickly and then you're like trying to get me to slow down. I'm not going to do this one, it was really similar to that last one. Go down here. Alright, don't let the variable in the bottom scare you. And I'm sorry, my font is weird on these. I don't know why the 3 over 10 is so big. Shouty 3 over 10. So we're going to do our cross products here. So we get 3n equals 8 times 10, which is 80. So it doesn't matter if the variable's on the top or the bottom. We don't really care. We're going to divide by 3. What's that? 26.6 repeating. You can.
I missed it.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Or you can just round that up to 7.7. All right, let's flip to the back side. I'd like to go down to the ratio ones. So I don't know that we're going to do all of these. Let me go down. Okay.
Ratios.
All right, so it says write as a ratio in lowest terms. So if you guys could go down to example 6 down here, it's about halfway down the page. Write as a ratio in lowest terms. So this one's not asking us to find anything other than the fraction of those comparison of those values. So 175 out of 250 students were dressed up for Spirit Day today. That's not, I didn't really count this today because I looked and saw that most people were dressed up. So I just guessed. So 175 out of 250, how do I write that as a ratio?
175 and then ratio.
Yeah. And then they want it as a ratio in lowest terms. All they mean by that is simplify. So I can divide these each by 25 at least, I think.
Immediately. 20 over 10.
Mm-hmm. What's that one? 75 divided by 25? That's 7.
Close enough.
So 7 out of 10 would be our ratio in lowest terms. And now, hopefully, I'm not asking you to do this, but you see a number like 7 over 10, I see that as 70%. Or, let's say it's just a number that you kind of get better with, like when you start getting used to these fractions that we see frequently. All right, so let's do this word problem. So you'll have to do some like this in our homework today, and then something like this. So solving this, a fish wholesaler buys 40 pounds of fresh salmon from a fisherman for $232. Estimate the cost of 300 pounds. And we're assuming he's not getting any sort of deal because like, the more you buy, sometimes you get a better deal. We're going to assume it stays consistent. So the idea with proportions is it's the same rate regardless if you buy 40 pounds or 300 pounds. I would like you to set up a proportion for this. I know some of you guys are good at figuring things like this out without a proportion. I ask that you do just in case, again, if it's something you aren't too sure about, the proportion really helps things out. So, in my proportion, on the top I'm going to put the same type of values, on the bottom I'm going to put the same type of values. So, what do you want to make our first fraction say? 40 out of 232. So that means on top we have pounds, and on the bottom we have money. So for 40 pounds, we take $232. In my next fraction, this is probably the toughest part, but once you get it, it's going to seem really logical to you, is you put the 300 pounds in the same spot you put pounds in that other fraction. So the 300 is going to go on the top because we don't know the money. So the money is unknown, and we're trying to find that because we know how many pounds we want to buy.
Does 1740 sound right?
Yeah, I think so. Because it's quite a bit more.
232 by 40 and multiply that answer by 300.
So we're going to cross multiply and set equal. And 232 times 300, we're going to multiply that.
69,600.
Thank you. And then we're going to divide by 40. Oops.
So I was correct.
Now, and actually, Clayton asked me, do you think that sounds, yes, did I do something wrong?
No, I'm just asking, so I set up a proportions differently,
Yeah,
so
so
they still follow the same steps.
yeah, no, that's okay. As long as you're putting them kind of either next to each other or up and down from one another, you're still multiplying the same things, yeah. And so Ellie's question was, she set up her proportion a little bit differently than me, and that's okay. There's other ways to set it up, but there's ways you can't. So there's like kind of like there's making sure that, there's like ways that work and ways that don't. Probably the best way is kind of asking that question, does my answer make sense? And I would hope that Clayton's asking me just because I'm here, but like, I would hope you're asking yourself that question, like, does that make sense? Yeah, this is a lot more fish. 40 compared to 300, that's almost 10 times as much fish. So understanding that it's probably gonna be about 10 times as much in terms of money, so it's a little under that, so kind of making some estimates. Now, had I gotten $17.40, I hope I'd be like, that doesn't sound right. So making sure your answer makes some sort of
I
sense.
just divided 332 by 40 and got that answer and multiplied that.
Yeah, that works. And like I said,
It was like $5.80 per pound of fish.
yeah, and you just want to, again, there's combinations that work and combinations that don't. You just have to be careful about making, I like word problems because they should make sense when you finish. Like, it shouldn't just be gibberish where you're like, I don't know if $1,700 makes sense at all for this fish. Like, that sounds like a lot of money, but if it's a fisherman and a wholesaler, it makes sense. All right? So I think I'm going to give over stuff to Miss Miller. I'm sure if you guys want more examples or if you want to go through some of the homework together, you're welcome to. Otherwise, if time wisely.